Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our first Wednesday webinar. We are so excited to have you all here and to provide some valuable resources to you all today. Just a quick note, we do encourage everyone listening today to please ask questions, as these webinars are for you to help answer any questions that you might have. If you are joining us with Zoom, please use the Q&A button located at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen to ask questions as our presenters are speaking. And if you're joining us with Facebook Live, please use the comment section below to drop your questions there as well. We will be answering all questions at the end of our presentation today with a pretty hefty Q&A happening with our presenters live. And any additional questions that you might have that we can't answer, we will definitely be reaching out to you as well with what those answers are. At this time, I would love to introduce Warren Call, our President and CEO of Traverse Connect. Warren, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Good morning, Molly. Thanks, everyone. And thanks to everyone for joining us today. It's a great time to have this important discussion. Welcome to the Traverse Connect Connecting the Dots webinar, Navigating the Current Financial Landscape for Your Business. As we confront this terrible virus, its impact on our community, our people, and our businesses, Traverse Connect wants to be your resource and partner for information, insights, and support. I want to thank our sponsor for today's event, the Michigan Certified Development Corporation. We appreciate the MCDC's support and partnership. To start off, I'd like to introduce our speakers for today. We have Dave Schultz, Senior Vice President for Fifth Third Bank, John Galbraith, Loan Officer for the Michigan Certified Development Corporation, Mandy Sentieri, Director of Finance and Operations at Traverse Connect, and Laura Galbraith, Executive Director at Venture North Funding and Development. I'll turn it over to the speakers in just a moment. But first, I want to provide you with an overview of Traverse Connect's COVID-19 response efforts. As all of you know, we're facing an international, national, state, and local health crisis, as well as an economic crisis. Public health, the health of our employers, our employees, our workers, and our community is our primary concern. A strong economy depends on healthy and vibrant workforce. The COVID-19 pandemic is a fast and quickly evolving crisis, as we all know, and we all need to work together to flatten the curve and minimize transmission of the virus in order to shorten the duration that our businesses are closed or operating with minimal services. We're in constant communication with partner organizations across the region, and Traverse Connect's entire team is working overtime, focused on helping businesses and employers in our community. Our advocacy team is coordinating at all levels of government in order to support our businesses in navigating this new normal. And we're monitoring the effects of the executive orders from the governor and new legislation on our local economy so that we can support our businesses during the stay-at-home period right now and in the coming recovery. We're also helping companies across the region to bring innovative manufacturing and business solutions to this crisis at a local level. Traverse Connect's role convening businesses for creative collaboration is a primary focus during this critical time, and our local businesses have stepped up and are doing amazing things right now. Our team also meets with community partners at the Joint Operations Center 7 days a week to address acute community needs and provide clear and concise information to the region. We also have twice weekly calls with FEMA officials in Washington. And as part of the Grand Traverse County Emergency Declaration, local officials have included Traverse Connect on the support function for long-term planning and the eventual economic recovery efforts. This is a function that has not been activated in our area before, but it's common in areas impacted by tornadoes and hurricanes. So initially, this function involves coordinating private sector resources to address emergency response needs, disseminating information on health, safety, and logistics, and collecting your industry-specific feedback. Now, as the acute crisis subsides, the designation from the Emergency Management Declaration will involve planning for recovery and coordinating the eventual back-to-business relief efforts. Traverse Connect's honored to take this important role. our most critical role right now is to help local businesses, your businesses, get back on their feet. All this work obviously is paired with frequent and comprehensive communications on our website, our email bulletins, social media, and webinars like this event today. Traverse Connect is here to support your organization now and long into the future. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me directly. Let me know what we can do to further support your businesses and your employees. And I'll also be happy to take questions during the Q&A session after our speaker remarks. Now, this webinar is the first in a series of online forums. Today, obviously, we'll be discussing the financial issues you're grappling with and the options local businesses can utilize right now. But stay tuned for further discussions on employment issues, remote work solutions, and economic recovery policy. We will now turn to the topic at hand, the financial information you need for your business. So Molly, let me turn it back to you.
Warren, thank you so much. We do have a great agenda for you today, covering things from loans, payroll, unemployment program, and updates from MEDC. So with that, I would love to turn it over to Dave Schultz, who is the Senior Vice President and Commercial Banking Relationship Manager with Fifth Third. Dave, thank you so much for being here with us today.
You're welcome, and thanks everybody for joining us today. My goal today is really to kind of talk through where the banks are today, what's going on in the banking industry. As an essential business during this crisis, the bank's job, as I look at it, is the continuous education and all the information on the programs that are coming out, actually several times a day. We're trying our best that we can at this point to inform and really reinsure our clients during this time period on the programs themselves, referring them to the best sources of capital, and for and all this information on a daily basis. We're also directing them to the programs and who the sources for the individual funding on each of the programs is. I'm not going to touch specifically on the programs. That's really going to be John and Laura and Mandy as we go through this presentation. But I will touch briefly. What we've tried to do initially is really get our customers moving towards the disaster loan, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, which is a direct program through the SBA. That was our first course of action, as this was the first funding that was made available to all of our businesses during this time period. We also stress the importance to them prior to this being released to educate themselves on the program so that they could get everything prepared and ready to submit to SBA as quickly as they could once that was released. Right now, the banks are really in the midst of the Paycheck Protection Program, so through the SBA CARES Act. This is really occupying almost 100% of our time right now in reaching out and talking to each of our businesses, talking to them as to whether they would qualify for this program the best we know. We're expecting the program to be fully released, hopefully by the end of this week. We're actually hoping Thursday or Friday that it will become live. There are applications that have been sourcing around town to different businesses, but I wanted to stress that the need will be to apply through your existing bank. So if you bank or credit union, so if you have your commercial deposits or your loans with a bank or a credit union at that time, you will need to apply through that bank or credit union first to become part of this program. For our bank, and I think most of the banks, all the applications will be completed online. With us, it will be through our online portal for our commercial customers, and then also through www.53.com for our small business clients. And I think that will be similar for most of the banks and credit unions at this time. In addition to that, the banks are also working directly with our business customers and also our consumer customers on a lot of other initiatives at this time. We're doing loan deferrals, which is taking most of our time and credit person's times and looking at primarily principal deferments for our clients for 90 days on their loans. In some cases, these could actually even be principal and interest deferments, depending on how bad they're hurt by the existing crisis right now. In addition, we've also rolled out deferral programs that are in place for vehicle payment deferrals, credit card deferrals, mortgage and home equity deferrals, small business payment deferral programs, and then also have delayed any repossessions or foreclosures, of course, during this time. In addition to that, we're also working with a lot of our clients on increases in their existing working capital lines of credit, as a lot of them are needing excess working capital in order to work through the current crisis situation that we're in. So in addition to the SBA programs that are out there, the bank is working hard on other deferral programs for our clients to help us get through this time period. We're also advising clients the best they can to manage their cash flows at this time by negotiating with all your providers. This would include utility providers, landlords, and various other providers out there that may be willing to look at deferrals during this time period. Most importantly, at this time of crisis for our clients and the community, it's our duty really from the bank perspective to communicate consistently and concisely the best we can. As we all know, things are changing continuously every day from an economic, governmental, and a banking perspective. We're here to help. I recommend that you reach out to your bank. All your bankers are, working continuously every day. The branches are remaining open in most cases as an essential business, and the drive-throughs are also open to service you, as most of the commercial people like myself are working from home and have been for about a 2-week period now. Willing to answer any questions that are out there, so please drop any questions that you may have for me in the Q&A section below, and I'll turn it back over to Molly to continue with the program. Thank you very much for listening today.
Thank you so much, Dave. We really appreciate it. Next, I would love to introduce John Galbraith. John is the Commercial Loan Officer with MCDC. John, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Molly. And thank you all for joining us. As I know there's a lot of questions out there, and I hope to get through some of the finer details. I'm going to be going through 2 programs. I'm going to go through the federal loan programs and the SBA CARE Act. So I think it's important to point out when people see the SBA, just the acronym, they kind of curl into a ball and start thinking of the old ways the SBA used to be, with bureaucracy and meaningless application papers, things of that nature. I want to assure everyone out there, this is not the case. Get rid of those old expectations. The SBA is here. It is ready to fight with you and is ready to alleviate any burdens you're facing. This is a huge package with a lot of moving parts. Do know that those parts are apt to change. And we will keep you up to date as soon as possible. But with that being said, I want to go through first with the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, also known as the EIDL program. as opposed to the Economic Injury Disaster Grant Program, the EIDG program. Now, when you apply for these, you will only see those acronyms. And with that being said, these are direct loans from the business owner to the SBA. Who is eligible? Businesses either for profit or nonprofit 501c3s with 500 employees or less. Available loan amounts up to $2 million, and that will be determined by an SBA underwriter. When you apply for this, I've been telling people, have your latest tax return in front of you, and that will have and your 2019 year-to-date, or excuse me, your 2019 year ends. That will give you all the information needed to fill out the application. They will not ask you, and this is important, they will not ask you for a dollar amount. Every industry has been impacted across the board. 99.9% of the industry has been affected. So they will take your SIC code and they will, and they haven't shared with us their calculation, but they will come up with a dollar amount as a percentage of your SIC code statistically shows that you've been affected. So the loan term is up to 30 years. I would definitely take the 30 years. They may be prepaid at any time, but you need to be careful and cognizant of your cash flow right now. You need to focus on your cash reserves. Once things turn around, and I strongly believe they're going to very quickly after, you can prepay the loan. You can prepay the loan in 10 years. There's zero prepayment penalty. All fees are waived. Interest rate for profits is 3.75 and 2.75 for nonprofits. You do not need collateral for loans under $25,000. You do need it for loans above. However, there is talk, more than talk. It does appear as though they're going to be waiving that. And that'll be an update for next time. Personal guarantees, no personal guarantees for 25,000 or below. Above 25,000, there will need to be personal guarantees. Takes about 30 days. With the amount of volume coming in, it's probably going to take closer to 40 days by the time you actually have cash in your hand. So be patient, but do know the amount of volume they're dealing with, even in between 30 and 40 days, is truly going to be a logistical miracle. If you haven't already, go to sba.gov/disaster. I've been telling business owners, drop whatever you're doing if you haven't applied for this and apply right now. There's nothing more important you could be doing for your business but applying for this. And second, the Economic Injury Disaster Grant Program. So first, apply for the the disaster loan and then go back in and apply for the disaster grant. So $10,000 is available to any small business and nonprofits that apply for the disaster loan fund. You have to apply for the disaster loan fund first. The grant does not need to be repaid, even if you're denied the disaster loan. Use of grant is to maintain payroll, provide paid sick leave, meet increased production costs due to supply chain distributions, pay business obligations, including debt, rent, and mortgage payments. Again, that's the same website, sba.gov/disaster. So the second part is already in motion, and that's the SBA CARE Act. If you currently have a 7A or a 504 loan through the SBA, you have 6 months of debt forgiveness. This is not a deferment. The SBA is paying your note for the next 6 months in an effort to allow you to preserve cash flow. These also apply to any new loans within the next 6 months. Again, this is not a deferment. This is already happening. As a matter of fact, if you have a SBA 504 loan, the first of every month, your account is auto debited. You will see as of this morning that auto debit did not occur. The SBA has paid your payment directly. On the 7A side, it gets a little more tricky. However, starting March 27th, so this past week, the SBA started paying your 7A program. And the way this works is, and not to get too thick into the weeds, but there's an organization called Colson Services. Colson Services collects the payments from the banks that you make for your 7A loan, and they pay it. They collect the payments. So what will happen is your bank within the next 30 days will be making a list to the SBA, letting them know what your payment was and interest rate and fees and things of that nature. The SBA will pay then Colson Services. So if you have, more to the point, if you have a 7A or a 504, you do not need to pay. It's already been paid for. This is not a deferment. This is a debt forgiveness. And I want to go through my notes, make sure I hit everything. Very important. This is not a taxable occurrence, so you will not get taxed on any of these relief programs. If you do not have a 504 for commercial real estate, I would suggest that you refinance into a 504. If you are going to be purchasing anytime, you're going to want to use the 504 program. Last month's rates on that were 2.88% for a 25 fixed commercial loan. With that being said, please type me your question, and we'll be able to take an opportunity at the end to go through your questions and get details situated. So thank you, and be well.
John, thank you so much for all of that wonderful information. And again, thank you to MCDC for being a presenting sponsor of this webinar today. Next, we would love to move forward with payroll and unemployment programs. Joining us today is Mandy Sentieri, who is the Director of Finance and Operations with Traverse Connect. Mandy, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much, Molly, and good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm going to be going over some specifics for the Paycheck Protection Program, the 50% employee retention tax credit, the Social Security tax deferral, the WorkShare program, and then just some updated enhancements to unemployment that was just signed this week. So the Paycheck Protection Program is new. It's never been done before, so please be aware that there could be additional changes coming, and a lot of the details are still being determined. So this program is for all for-profit businesses and 501c3 and 501c19 nonprofits. The amount of this loan can be up to 2.5 times your average monthly payroll cost, and that's based on the last 12 months of your payroll expenses. It is capped at $10 million, and the loan is to cover payroll costs, mortgage and other debt interests, rent, and utilities. The payroll costs do cap out at $100,000 of an annualized basis for each employee. Any portion of the loan funds that are used for payroll costs, mortgage interest, rent, and utility expenses during an 8-week period, which starts when the loan is received, that amount can be forgiven. However, 75% of the funds must be used for payroll-specific costs. To have the loan forgiven, employers will need to retain their average number of employees and hours. If salaries are decreased by more than 25%, then the amount forgiven will be reduced. Employers do have until June 30th of 2020 to restore their full-time employment and salary levels for any changes that they may have made between February 15th of 2020 and April 26th of 2020. The loan recipients will have to submit an application to the originating lender requesting forgiveness. The application will have to include some documentation certifying that the requested loan forgiveness was used for payroll, utilities, rents, and or interest. The amount of the loan that is not forgiven will be termed out over 2 years with payments deferred for 6 months, and the interest rate is at 0.5%. These loans do not require a personal guarantee. They do not require any collateral, and all of the borrower and lender fees are waived. They do need to be closed by June 30th of 2020. I have seen an application that is out there now, and I believe that they can be filed starting Fridays. Dave talked about that a little bit more. And it would have to be through your bank or credit union. The next program I'm going to discuss is the 50% retention tax credit. Just to keep in mind, if you do receive a Paycheck Protection Program loan, you do not qualify to receive the 50% employee retention tax credit. This program, though, is for all for-profit businesses and the 501c3 and 501c19 nonprofits who have had their operations fully or partially suspended, or have had a decline of at least 50% in gross receipts compared to the same calendar quarter in the prior year. The available credit amount is equal to 50% of qualified wages up to $10,000, which equates to a max credit of $5,000 per employee. The credit is received by an offset of the employer portion of Social Security, and any amount that is above the Social Security amount due will be treated as an overpayment to the IRS and will be refunded to the business. To receive this as tax credit, the employer will have to file a tax credit request form, which as of this morning was not yet available. Another program is the Social Security tax deferral. And again, this is one that if you receive a Paycheck Protection Program loan, you do not qualify for this program either. Now, this is for all employers who can have their Social Security deposits that are due for March 27th of 2020 through December 31st of 2020 deferred. 50% of those deferred payments are due by December 31st of 2021, and then the second 50% are due by 12/31 of 2022. Again, the employer will have to file a tax payment deferral form, which is not available yet either. The WorkShare program is for any employer who are current on their unemployment taxes and have paid wages in the last 12 quarters. If employers have reduced their employees' wages or hours from anywhere from 15% to 45%, then the employees are eligible to collect unemployment on a portion of the lost wages. And so it's calculated by taking the percentage of the reduction and multiplying it by the maximum weekly unemployment amount. So for example, if an employee's wages were reduced by 20%, then they could collect 20% of the maximum weekly unemployment amount. It doesn't make the employee completely whole, but it does help offset some of the lost wages. One final item I wanted to highlight is the qualifications for unemployment benefits have recently been changed to include any self-employed individuals, 1099 independent contractors, gig and low-wage workers who can no longer work due to the current crisis. The weekly benefit amount for all unemployed workers has also been increased by $600 a week, and they've also extended the period from 26 to 39 weeks. If someone has already applied, they do not need to apply again. There will be additional guidance coming from the UIA in the next few days. I know that was a lot of detailed information. So if any questions you have, please just drop them in the Q&A section below. And with that, we'll turn it back over to Molly.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mandy. And yes, I do see questions building up in the Q&A. Keep them coming. We have one presenter left, which is Laura Galbraith. Laura is the Executive Director with Venture North. So Laura, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Venture North is a community development financial institution, a CDFI, whose purpose is to help small businesses access capital, technical assistance, and other critical resources to grow and expand in our 10-county region. There are over 1,200 CDFIs nationwide, and approximately 200 assist businesses. Last week, the state announced the Michigan Small Business Relief Program, and the goal of this program was to provide immediate financial support to businesses hardest hit by COVID-19 and the governor's executive order. There are both grants and very low interest loans available, and I will highlight details on each of these programs this morning. So with the grant program, our 10-county region, which is Region 2, is receiving $500,000 of the Michigan Strategic Fund grant from the MEDC, Michigan Economic Development Corporation. And these funds will support grants to both businesses and nonprofit entities. With very limited funds, grants will likely range from $5,000 to $10,000. Due to the significant number of businesses that have been impacted and the limited resources available under this program, Region 2's grant committee, which is called the Northwest Small Business Relief Fund Collaboration, will most likely prioritize applications as follows. The company needs to demonstrate an income loss as a result of the executive order or the COVID-19 outbreak. The company needs to demonstrate that it was profitable prior to March 16th, 2020. The company had 50 employees or less as of March 16th, 2020, and that the company is located in a downtown district or high impact corridor. And we do have a link that will be shared on the Traverse Connect website of where these high impact corridors are throughout Region 2. The company needs, the company would need working capital to support payroll expenses, rent, mortgage payments, utility payments, or other similar expenses that occur in the ordinary course of business. The loan program, which I just found out this morning, that there will be approximately $500,000 in loan availability for Region 2. Eligible businesses include all of the same criteria as the grants, except for the following. The company size may be fewer than 100 employees, and the company can demonstrate that it is unable to access credit through alternative sources. The loans received may be used for working capital, similar to the grant program, which would include payroll, rent, mortgage, utility expenses, and other expenses that occur in the ordinary course of business. The loan terms, the amount of the loan will be $50,000 to $200,000. The interest rate is 0.25%. The repayment terms will be determined based on the company's need, and some of the options that the Michigan Strategic Fund has been publishing is interest only for 60 months, followed by a fully amortized 60-month term. The loan would need to be paid fully in 120 months. The loans will not require collateral, nor do they call for guarantees. And again, a nonprofit is eligible to apply for the program if it meets the eligible business guidelines. It is important to note a company may not receive funding from both the grant and the loan program. A company is encouraged to apply for both the SBA funding that was discussed earlier this morning and MEDC's program. The MEDC program is intended to complement the SBA programs, not replace them. We currently have 408 completed applications for our region. The grant and loan applications close this Friday, April 3rd at noon. After all applications are received, The review process begins April 7th, and all decisions regarding grants will be announced by April 8th, 2020. And businesses interested in applying can go to, again, Traverse Connect's website, and we will have the link available. I also want to share additional resources for you on the phone this morning. Had a lot of businesses that have asked who is able to assist small businesses or nonprofits navigate the eligibility of any of these programs. And we want to highlight our partners, SCORE and SBDC, as those partners that provide free consulting services. There are daily small business support webinars along with web application details. And again, Traverse Connect has their contact information for both agencies on its website. And in closing, for those businesses who are still uncertain if they will qualify for any of the programs mentioned today, there are new funding opportunities announced almost daily, all meant to fill critical gaps. COVID-19 has shifted Venture North's team's focus, and all of the organizations that are in the webinar today to triage. None of us anticipated this 3 weeks ago. Venture North has been actively connecting clients in our portfolio with the resources they need to remain in business. And we are currently having conversations with funders regarding emergency loan funds and other perceived gaps in the market. In fact, it was announced just last week that Google is going to highlight a Grow with Google fund, and this new fund will allow CDFIs to support both short-term recovery and long-term financing needs of America's small businesses and nonprofit entities, especially those in distressed communities. So that program will most likely be announced within the next few weeks. And again, that is specifically for CDFIs to apply to. So please look for more funding announcements in the near future, and please feel free to type any of your questions in the Q&A this morning. And thank you for letting me have an opportunity to speak to you today.
Thank you so much, Laura. And thank you again to all of our presenters, Warren Call, Dave Schultz, John and Laura Galbraith, and Mandy Santeri. I do see a lot of really great questions that came in the Q&A, so I really appreciate everyone participating in that. At this point, we will now be looking into those questions to make sure we are able to answer any of them that we can. In addition to that, though, I would love to quickly open up a poll that we have for all of you today, just to see what other future webinars we might be able to provide for you that could be a great resource. I'll just have this open for a few minutes here if you want to quickly take a look. You can select more than one. If it's information that you want to learn more on, we will get those speakers for you. We'll find the information and help figure this out all together as a community. So I'll just leave this open for one moment here, and then we will be able to dive into the Q&A. And in the meantime, if our speakers could please unmute themselves and turn on your videos, and we will get the Q&A ready.
Thanks. As Molly said, there were a number of great questions that have come through. In the process of trying to address a number of them, Dave, and a couple of the questions that came up initially were directly linked, called you out to answer. Could you address the one that is, what's the name of the program the banks are offering for businesses for operating costs?
I think the one that you're asking about there is really the payment protection or the paycheck protection program, is what I'm guessing. Those, I mean, the two programs that we're working with would really be the disaster loan program and then the PPP program.
Thanks,
Those
Dave.
are the ones that we're seeing the majority of our clients work with right now.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
Another great question is where to find the impact zones for MEDC loan/grant.
We will share that link on Traverse Connect's website. It is also on Networks Northwest. The growth corridors are all listed by county, but we will share that after this webinar.
Do small farm operations qualify for the 504 25-year fixed loan program?
Yeah, not the disaster loan program, but yes, the regular 504 program. I have several, vineyards, orchards, things of that nature. So yes.
What about the EID grants and loans in regards to that same question?
So no, they don't.
Are health insurance premiums included as an expense covered under the Paycheck Protection Program?
Yes, they are included.
Will SBA be waiving the fees for new 504 and 7A loans used to buy a new business?
For the next 6 months, yes.
Perfect. Someone asked, just to clarify or verify, if someone is planning to buy a business and planning to use the SBA loan, 7A or 504, all loans in the next 6 months will have first 6 month paid by SBA, principal and interest, and not a deferment.
Correct.
How do these programs help single owner, LLC, or sole proprietorships?
Pardon, could you ask that question again?
Yes, the question was, how do these programs help single owner, LLC, or sole proprietorship?
So as it relates to the disaster recovery, you get immediate cash influx for your business. Was that a question on the disaster program? So the programs also in general?
They did not specify. They just said the loans help single owner, LLC.
Yeah.
Yeah, sole proprietors do qualify for the PPP program also.
Sole proprietors qualify for the MEDC loans and grants as well.
Mhm.
And anything on the conventional side, they're welcome to contact me directly.
Perfect. For Dave Schultz, could you describe the high-level criteria for businesses qualifying for an SBA CARES forgivable loan?
That's a good question. I mean, I guess what I can do is really run through, are you eligible? It's a small business with fewer than 500 employees, a small business that otherwise meets the SBA size standard, 501c3 with fewer than 500 employees, an individual who operates as a sole proprietor, an individual who operates as an independent contractor, an individual is self-employed who regularly carries on any trade or business, tribal concerns that meet the SBA size, and then the 501c19 veterans organization are basically the eligibility requirements for that program.
Great, thank you.
I did also want to mention, we had talked a little bit, and that doesn't go exactly with this, but I just got an email in, and it related. I thought there was a question in regards to the unforgiven portion of the loan. And I know Mandy had mentioned that it is a 2-year loan, which it is, and the interest rate, I think there was a question on the interest rate. The interest rate will be 0.5% fixed on that loan for 2 years on the unforgivable portion after the loan deferral period, if you will.
Yeah, and
So
I believe
everybody
that
knows, 'cause I
has
think
changed. Yeah, it was 10 years at 4%, and then that just recently changed. So
yeah, just changed to 2 years at 0.5% fixed.
Mhm.
Someone asked, we are an event-based business. Do any stimulus loan products offer debt relief or retainers deposits that need to be refunded? Clients with events months from now are asking about their non-refundable retainers.
So yeah, if I could tackle that, a lot of this is going to be, tackled by each individual business owner. I would apply. They know through your SIC code the way you've been affected, and will offer a loan to cover what they think losses you'll be taking, and then it'll be up to each individual business on whether they want to refund non-refundable due to the loan bailout that they were given, or keep those funds due to company policy. But that's on a case-by-case basis with each individual loan owner.
Perfect. Someone asked, I have an S Corp. However, I don't have employees. I'm the only person in the company. I have lost income, but not completely. Do I qualify for a percentage loss for unemployment?
That would not fall under the work share program, but there may be some benefits through unemployment with the recent changes. I don't have a definite answer for that yet. I would say go to the unemployment website to look for that, and hopefully there'll be more information coming soon.
And more importantly, that person needs to get to that SBA website and fill out the disaster loan program and grant.
Great. The next person asked, I am a small food retail establishment that is connected to a family farm operation. So much of my income is seasonal in nature. I am just starting to gear up for my normal sales period, which occurs in the summer. For example, I provide cherries for the Cherry Festival. Do I qualify for any of these programs?
If the majority of your income is derived from farm operations, you do not. So in this particular case, I would say probably not, but it's worth the time it takes. This is a very streamlined portion, our loan program, and it's only going to take 15 to 20 minutes to fill out the application. But my understanding is any farm operations it won't cover.
I do want to add that for the payment protection program, there is a special calculation for seasonal employers, so they may qualify for that program. And I don't have a definite answer on that for sure, but there is a special way for them to calculate their average wages over the last 12 months. They just take a different time frame. So that would be definitely something to look into if you're a seasonal employer.
If you have a question or on whether you qualify or not, apply. I'm telling everybody, apply, and I can't emphasize enough, do it now.
Are there any loans available for economic stimulus at low interest rates and easy to qualify for in order to expand a business during this time?
I would say, you know, a lot of our customers that, you know, not all customers are being impacted exactly the same during this time period. You have some companies that are actually seeing their businesses increase depending on what industry that they're in. And some of those companies are actually using or expected to use the PPP program to get some capital at this time, because it is a low cost capital move for the company that will also allow them to, you know, have it forgiven, most likely, or a majority of it forgiven down the road. So, you know, it's a very, in that case, it's a very low cost of capital program for you to consider at this point.
And believe it or not, during this time, I have business owners that see this as the time to expand. So they are going full throttle into expansion mode, and I'm seeing a lot of activity on the expansion using the 504 program for either equipment or real estate.
And this is a program that was not discussed today, and so I'm happy to talk directly with this individual if they'd like to go offline. But with expansion opportunities, a lot of times people don't think of energy efficiency or renewable energy grants that may be available. USDA does have a grant program that the application was expanded through April 15th. It's 25% off of any energy efficiency or renewable energy that you may invest in. A lot of times people don't think, especially if it's an existing construction project, you're going to do an expansion that can qualify if you are updating any insulation, windows, doors, roof. Same thing with the energy efficiency. There are many lenders that provide 0% financing if the percentage of the project has an energy efficiency component to it. And then I guess the second program that we didn't talk about today is Community Development Block Grant Loan Funds. There are 2 counties in Region 2, Benzie County and Grand Traverse County, that have loan funds available. And if you are expanding and creating jobs, you are able to pursue those loan programs at low interest, flexible terms, and no closing fees.
Perfect. Another question we have is, what do you do if your bank is advertising that they are not able to accept SBA loan applications yet for a Paycheck Protection Program? Is there a list of banks who are able to facilitate applications now?
So,
Good question. Go ahead.
yeah, I'll take that one.
I'll chime in too.
So I've been inundated, to put it mildly, with smaller banks and credit unions that want into the program. I don't mean to shun you away from those banks, but as it comes specifically to these programs, if they're not approved by the SBA already, there's just not going to be enough time for them to get approved, go through the process, go through the training, go through the back office to have these done. So there are a lot of smaller credit unions and community banks that are approved, and there are regional and larger national banks that are already approved. So you need to talk to your specific bank, whomever you have the relationship with, find out if they are approved. If they are, get going on it. If not, you need a referral, you need a list.
SBA has a list of
SBA does have a
lenders.
list of approved lenders.
Yes.
Yeah.
I also think it's important to, some of these questions may be related to the fact that programs have been rolled out and announced, but not all details are out there to the lenders and on the websites yet. So to some of this, your bank may have may be on the approved list, and they may be waiting for the final details from SBA before the application process is open.
No, that's true. I mean, right now we're waiting for that. We're making sure that, you know, we have all the answers to the questions, and from my understanding, all of the banks and credit unions will be rolling it out simultaneously, because you really don't want some putting it out there before others, because, you know, and again, like John said, you know, $350 billion is a lot of money, but we also anticipate that $350 billion to be gone possibly as soon as within a week. And if that's the case, there is talk of an additional funds being available down the road, but right now, that, you know, that's why once this thing becomes live, it's going to be very fluid, very quick. And, you know, we're stressing to go to your bank first, because I don't know the answer, and I'm trying to find the answer because I've been asked a couple times, what if our bank or credit union does not allow or work, you know, is not a certified SBA lender? Can we go through you? And I don't know that answer, because we really have to get our clients into the funnel first. But I'm trying to find that answer. And if I do, I would be more than happy to share it.
Well said.
Perfect. Another question is, my business is less than a year old and not profitable yet. I have only 1099 contract employees, but no true employees. What programs do I still qualify for?
But both the if it's a for-profit business, you do not farm related, you can apply for the disaster loan and grant.
And you also can apply for the MEDC loan and grant. Again, that one is a much smaller pot of money, but you can apply.
Great. Earlier, there was a question asked about an S Corp with no employees. They did a follow-up question of, would they qualify for the payroll protection program?
With no employees, I think they would be better off going applying for the EIDL loan rather than the payroll one, because they won't have anything forgiven because they don't have employees. So that answers the question.
I would agree.
How to calculate loan amount to cover losses that are not yet realized, events that will likely cancel but haven't by the time we apply.
Can you ask that one more time?
Yes, the question was how to calculate loan amount to cover losses that are not yet realized, events that will likely cancel but haven't by the time we apply.
Right. So again, there won't be a place on the application to put how much money you would like. Trust me, they have actuaries, people that run statistics all day, every day. They have, computer programs, things of that nature to take your SIC code, your industry, and statistically find out what you're looking at losses. Is it perfect? No. Dave alluded to, this money is going to be gone quickly, and it is. That's why I'm telling people, apply immediately. They do not let us know what the calculation is per your industry. Go on, apply. If it's not enough money, reapply when phase 2, 3, or 4 come out. The cavalry is coming, and this first round is to get America really up and running.
Perfect. We're just going to take 2 more questions here. The next question is about someone who rents their house out in the summertime and makes most of their income in a 1-month period of that time. Since we make all of this company primarily in 1 month in the summer, do we have to divide that income by 12 and only get the PPP loan for 250% of that small amount?
Again, I'm not sure if that would be the right loan program for them, because if they have employees, then they would have to, then they could use that time frame for the calculation, but I'm assuming they don't have employees since it's just renting out their home. So that was probably not the right program.
Yeah, because that program is all that 2.5 times is the 2.5 times your payroll.
Right.
Not your expenses, so that would not qualify, I don't think.
All right, and the last question I have for today is, how do you determine the correct NAICS code if you operate a multifaceted small business that includes a B&B, events, restaurant, etc.?
Okay, so that's going to go under a hospitality NICS code. And your NICS code is right there on your tax return. You'll be able to look up what it actually is. If you have a different entity for each one, you need to apply for each individual entity.
Perfect. Well, thank you all so much. If there was any questions that anyone had that they might not have had a chance to ask or didn't get the answer they were quite looking for, please feel free to reach out to myself directly. I will be sure to forward on any of these questions to our presenters that we have here today to help you in whatever way that we can. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you again to our speakers, Warren Call, Dave Schultz, John and Laura Galbraith, and Mandy Santeri. And of course, thank you to MCDC as our presenting sponsor today. We hope you all have a great day and enjoy the rest of your week. And please let us know how we can help you in the future. Thanks, everyone.